Obviously, no one wants to learn about the abstract. They're all gone. Just a couple of tidbits before we get started. I got to looking in your auditor's book, and did you know next year 65 county auditors are going to be running for election? 24 will be brand new ones, and 41 will be up for re-election. I tell you, that's a lot of changeover. So you veterans that are here, watch out for the questions in 2015. Other thing too that, Paul Joyce, he's disappointed he still has forms up here. He really, really wants responses. You could really get him and fill out two, make him read some more. And he did mention it was Veterans Day. How many veterans we got in here today? Can you stand up so we can honor our veterans? And when you see Paul Joyce, tell him thank you as well. He was in the Navy. Okay. One first comment I want to make about settlement is your December settlement forms are on the FTP site already. If you have issues getting to them or questions about them, please let me know. Please make sure I put your SWETA worksheet out there, your excise tax allocation worksheet. And if you have any questions on it or if it's missing any districts on it, let me know. With some of these annexations, sometimes we miss them. So let me know about those. Okay, we're going to do one of our favorite things that come up in the spring, and believe it or not, since everyone's about back on time with those budget orders, it's happening a little bit quicker and quicker every year. What is the abstract? Well, according to IC Code 6.1.122.5, it is, on or before March 15th of each year, the county auditor shall prepare and deliver to the auditor of state and the county treasurer a certified copy of an abstract of property, assessment, taxes, deductions, and exemptions for taxes payable in the year in the taxing district of the county. The county auditor shall prepare the abstract in such a manner that the information concerning the property tax deductions reflect the total amount of each type of deduction. The abstract shall also contain a statement of taxes, penalties, and unpaid in each district at the time of the last settlement between the county auditor and the treasurer and the status of these delinquencies. The auditor of state, county auditor, and county treasurer shall keep a copy of the abstract in his or her office as public record. Well, you want that in plain English? It's just a summary of the current and delinquent taxes charged in the current payable year. And because it's a summary report, it is the sum total of the initial property tax statement. So that doesn't mean it's going to be the final of what you collect, because what your abstract is your initial billing. But we know the end result is going to be balanced out with additional assessments and certificate of errors and refunds and corrections of errors and all that good stuff. By the way, I keep looking at Dirks Bentley here in the front row. In case you haven't noticed, it's Chad from Harrison County. What we're going to be discussing today is your credit worksheets. In section 1, we have some things about TIF we need to go over because of the way the referendum funds, annexations, and fire districts are affecting them. Entering your values and deductions in section 1. That would help. And section 5, we're going to talk about your credit rate entries. We're also going to discuss the review area, what sections 2 through 4 are, and how we're going to test, and that we do test for possible circuit breakers. And we're going to look at our checklist and delinquencies and explain the printing of the abstract. First thing that we do is we give a master abstract, which is a complete blank one, to DLGF. And DLGF is going to enter in your taxing district names, your fund names, which are the funds at the top of each column, and they're going to enter in your fund rates. Now, once we receive word from the DLGF and they send us your abstract, We don't start anything when we send, because we're sending every county an email asking them if your county has any annexations with phase-in rates. Now, phase-in rates mean that you're annexing in property, but you're only applying the corporate rate at a certain % over a 4-year period. So we will have to adjust those rates on those annexation funds, okay? Once we get the email back from you saying yes or no, I don't have those, then we can start the process after we enter those. We'll start the process by doing our local credit rate worksheets. And currently we have 59 counties that have some property tax relief. And I think we're going to be adding, finally, Lake County to local options. Welcome, Lake County. So we need to do the worksheets for those 59 counties. If your county does not have any local option, we're going to send you the abstract. What we're going to do with those local option worksheets, and which, by the way, there was one in the file if you want to pull it out. It looks like this. It's the Uniform Seated Homestead Credit Worksheet, Rate Calculation Worksheet. We're going to be working with it. Okay, we're going to do that, and in the credit rate worksheet, we will enter in your county, your taxing district names, your tax rates, and the only thing that you have to enter in, or two things, is on the first part of the worksheet is your net assessed valuations. Now, if it's for Lowett PTRC, it's net taxable evaluations. If it is homestead, it's your net homestead values. And each of these have their own worksheet. And if you have Lowett Res PTRC, it's your net residential values. It is imperative that you enter in your mobile home values, net values, in these calculation worksheets as well. Once we get the worksheets back from you, we're going to verify that data. And every system out there has reports that give you those net values, and we do require that you submit those reports to us because we will be checking each district against those reports to make sure the values are correct. Because it's important because of the way the rates are set, and it will affect the rate if the values are not entered correctly. When we do those rate calculation worksheets, we do them in a particular order, not because we want to, but because PTRC really has to come off first and be calculated first. So if you are a Lowett PTRC county and you do have some homestead, the Lowett PTRC is the first worksheet that you're going to be getting. Then we go to your Lowett homestead, then we go to the Lowett res, and then we go to the seated. And to make sure any of the homestead does not exceed 100%, then we would adjust your seated rate at that time and give you a correct seated rate. In section 1, the first thing you're going to do is TIFs. How many counties have TIFs now? Do I want the counties that don't have it raise their hands so everyone else can beat you up? TIF just keeps changing a little bit more and more each day. With the TIF, you have to do all the data entry with TIF. You're going to put in your TIF district name. We do, after you key in the TIF district name, doesn't matter if you use the district or if you use the project name, we still need the DLGF 3-digit district code inserted at the end of that name, because there is just too many of them for us to try to figure out what rate we should be validating for that. If TIF is the only thing you have, and you have no referendum funds, and you have no annexations, and you have no fire districts, then the TIF rate is actually the taxing district rate that goes in section 4, column 25. But As you can see, if you have a referendum fund, as of April 30th, 2010, TIF cannot benefit from that. So what has to happen is when you enter in your TIF rate, you need to reduce the district rate by the referendum fund or fund rates. You could have either one fund or multiple fund. You're going to reduce the district rate by those rates, and that net amount is going to be the TIF rate. And we have opened up all the TIF district lines down in the fund area, so then for the referendum funds, you would find the referendum column in the TIF district lines and enter in the referendum rate. So we're capturing what belongs to the referendum from the TIF values, so the TIF doesn't get everything. Now, the same principle applies to annexation. If an annexation occurred after the creation of the TIF cannot take benefit of that value. So again, you're going to reduce the district rate by those annexation rates to get a net TIF rate you're going to be using. Same principle applies with the fire districts and the creation of it. And I have listed the Indiana codes for that. So once you have those in, you need to make sure then that the total district rate is still the certified district rate. So the two added together would equal your certified district rate. Don't panic. If you have that scenario, call us. We're more than happy to help you get those keyed in because it can be a little bit confusing. Now, entry of your values and deductions in Section 1. Those are all positive, except for the TIF values that you're going to enter in the TIF district in columns 17 and 18. Those are the only time you're going to be entering these values in as negative, and it's the only place in the abstract you're going to have negative values. The other thing I want to mention about TIF is TIF should not have any homestead values or credits if it was post-1995. Anything after 1995, TIF does not get homestead credit. So if you end up with homestead in your abstract in a TIF district, you need to be looking at that, okay? So then after you get your values entered in Section 1, in column 32, we need to enter in those net homestead values in column 32. But in this case, they do not include mobile homes. In column 33, you're going to enter in your net residential PTRC values. And again, they do not include mobile home values. Now, when we get into Section 5, it's where you're going to enter in your grand total current taxes and make sure that you're including your statement processing charges and your late assessment penalties. And the tax credit, when the rates are entered, they're entered in as a %. Now, here just last year, we have started entering in those rates for you. So when you get the abstract from us, they will already have the credit rates in there. But that does not relieve you from your responsibility of verifying the district rates, the fund rates, and the credit rates against your budget order, because you need to make sure that those are in there correct. Everyone is, you know, I'm not perfect, and I could have a number transposed, so you really need to verify the rates before you start the calculation process. The other thing you're going to be entering in Section 5 is your circuit breaker. Please, 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 I know it's confusing. Make sure you get these amounts in the correct districts and the correct columns. That has caused an issue in the past. When you're entering in your delinquent taxes, it's the only place on the abstract you're going to include your mobile homes. because we do record the delinquent taxes of mobile homes. Okay, that was weird. All right. Grand total current taxes, we're going to talk about review for a minute. Oh, there's what I missed. There is new columns for the 2014 abstract. There's a new column in section 1, column 34, other property tax credits, which reminds me, thank you Vandenberg County for that column. And section 5, column 16, which we need to talk about Joe a minute. You know how we have to give my new state auditor, Dwayne, a break and not hold him up to what your names when he meets you, he might ask 2 or 3 times. Well, evidently our new state auditor was in Vandenberg County visiting Joe and had been sitting in Joe's office for a while, and Joe looks up and he says, "Now, who are you with?" Ooh. Thanks, Joe. He's the one in the purple shirt in the back. I'll check with Dwayne. But anyway, so Joe, do I need a name tag? So anyway, those are some new columns. Vandenberg's the only one that's going to have that next year. And those columns there are not going to be funded by any local credits. It's some homegrown thing they got going down there. So if you do have stuff for these 2 columns, it's not going to be funded by anything of local credit money that you're collecting. Okay, the review area. If the difference is more than rounding, you need to be checking that. First place to start is verifying your data entry in section 1, verifying that your grand total current taxes are including the late assessment penalties and the statement processing. Verify that your TIF was calculated correctly. Now, majority, I think all the systems out there do separate the regular district total taxes and give you separate TIF total taxes. When years ago, you used to have to manually calculate the TIF taxes and subtract from above, but you don't have to do that anymore because I've talked to the vendors and your reports do that. On the credits, if the difference is more than rounding, we go back to the fact that make sure your rates are entered in correctly, make sure that they're in a percent format and not a decimal format. Make sure that you've got all the values in columns 32 and 33 correct. And then any rounding of those calculations will go to the general fund, which should only be minuscule amounts. Now, section 2 through 4 is going to show the amounts of portions to the fund that are post-circuit breaker. In other words, the circuit breaker is already removed from those amounts. And you need to go back and look at the 2 through 4 amounts and kind of compare them to your budget levy. Keep in mind that it is going to be smaller than what the budget levy and based on what kind of circuit breakers you have. It won't come back to the exact amount of your budget levy anyway because you've been in there making adjustments and corrections. I talked to my friend in Lake County, and for their county general fund alone, circuit breaker took a hit to them at 10.3 million. So, and granted, they are a big county, but you're going to see those differences. And if you don't think it's right or if you have questions, you need to let us know. And any questions you have about circuit breaker, kind of write them down because Dan's going to give you a whole class on circuit breakers tomorrow. Helpful hints prior to submitting the abstract to us. We will need to make sure that your grand total line for every column balances with your system reports. So the grand total line on the abstract needs to match exactly to what's on your system reports. The other issue that we tried to look for last year, because we've had it in the past, is in the total columns for every district, you need to match those back to your reports. If any of those total columns have a negative amount, something's wrong. No total column, no grand total line should have a negative amount. And then you need to check your data entry. Balancing to the credit rate calculation worksheets, and again, if you look at the Uniform Homestead Credit Rate Calculation Worksheet and think about the abstract, the total net value of real estate and mobile homes on the credit rate calculation worksheet will be more than column 32 and 33 on the abstract. The values on the abstract in columns 32 and 33 will be less because they do not include mobile homes. That's the first thing that we look at. The other thing that we check is the actual dollars for the credit amounts back in Section 5, because the Section 5 amounts will be less than the credit dollars on the rate calculation worksheet, again, because they don't include the mobile homes. So anything on the abstract for values that you're comparing to your credit rate worksheets and credit dollars, the abstract will always be less because it does not include the mobile homes. If you find that they are different, you've got either a data entry error or we've got some calculation issues. Okay? Now, delinquent taxes, you know that was our big thing that we look at your abstract, which, by the way, we still have quite a few of you that hit that first delinquent tax column and forget to complete the rest of the columns in Section 5. Our menu will take you to the first column you need to complete, but then scroll over to your right and you'll see the other 3 or 4 columns. But we're making sure that these delinquent taxes are carried correctly from your December settlement. And I've listed what column 18 compares to on your settlement form, what column 19 compares to, 20 and 21. If they are off, dig out your 102s from your December settlement and check it, your 102, using these formulas against your district amounts. Any questions on that? Now, the approval process, we're going to again verify that the rates were used, the correct rates were used. We're going to be comparing those credit values from the worksheets to the abstract. We're going to be comparing the credit dollars from the worksheets to the abstract. And we're going to test for possible circuit breakers. And we're going to see if the threshold is 100% or more, and if it is, there's no circuit breaker. And like I said, Dan's going to go into your threshold at that point. Amended abstracts. For 2012 Pay 13, we had 17 amended abstracts. The majority of these abstracts were due to the fact that TIF was not handled correctly with the values, or something with an abatement was done wrong, or you included something you shouldn't have. So especially with the TIF, double check your TIF, because, you know, when you file an amended abstract, then, you know, it just puts you further back in the compliancy line to get your printed abstract. And I know I have probably about 10 counties that still are not compliant and still have not gotten their printed abstract. If you think you are compliant and you haven't gotten your abstract, you need to let me know. Okay? So the last thing we're going to talk about here You like your checklist, I love ours. I just wanted to kind of show you how much we love our checklist. This is a checklist that has been created for every county. It already has your county name. It already has your rates, your credit rates in it. It already has your credit dollars in it, and it already has the values. And as you can see, we are checking just about everything we can check to make sure your abstract is compliant. This isn't your checklist, this is our checklist. And I keep a checklist, and we all keep a checklist on every county, and we make notes on it if there's issues and so forth. The other thing that I wanted to show you before I turn it over to Dan, he's going to have some extra time, is I keep being asked, and we're asked all the time, how do you guys keep track of all this? I'll show you. This is our tracking sheet. Now, if you will notice at the top, I have your county number, your name. I even know what software vendor you're using because we need to know what kind of reports to ask for. We keep track of if you've got your phase-in rates, if you have a low at PTRC rate, a homestead credit rate, a low at homestead, a low at res PTRC, whether you've got phase-ins. And here we start tracking if we've received your abstract from the DLGF, we make sure the protection's on, we make sure that the macros are out there. And we make sure we've approved all your worksheets. And we make sure that your rates don't exceed 100%. And then we place the abstract on the FTP site and let you know that it's there. We track when you file it, we double check your rates, we double check everything, and then we give you a pre-approval, who approved it. Janie does all of them, you can see she's JEC. And the date the county was notified that you're approved. And we've got to make sure that post-09 referendum funds excluded from TIF. We track the circuit breakers, and we track what counties are going to have circuit breaker adjusted rates. If I've cleaned up the abstract and have sent it to DLGF, if it's compliant and when we've printed it, our amended abstracts, when we send out everything else and when it's been approved. We track that for all 92 counties. And let me tell you, we panic a little if we miss one of you. Oh, I thought we did that. Well, the sheet doesn't say it, so you gotta go back and search it again. So we try our best to make sure that we have checked everything and double-checked everything for your abstract. By no means, don't be afraid to let me know if you need to file an amended abstract, because I'm not gonna get upset. But I do want you to double-check your values and stuff pretty good. So before I go, I got one more. Oh, do you have any questions? Quiet bunch. Okay, before I go, got one thing I want to comment on. Janie mentioned I wasn't allowed to be a flat Brenda anymore this December because y'all know I got hit by that car last year. Fireman was still worth the hit, I tell you. But I did want to tell you that I'm going to make sure in 2015, no, at the end of next year, 2014, I do get hit by something because that man's running for county auditor and he's going to be in the audience and I'm not going to like that because we'll be teaching the class. So if you all don't have any other questions, I really do appreciate your time. Don't ever hesitate to call us like we always say. Other than Dan, he'd rather have the biggie messy questions, but I want the little questions before you get the big messy ones. So here I turn it over to Dan.